Good evening, Vatsayan sir.
Good evening.
Harshad Deshpande will join meeting. Then we will start.
Okay.
Good evening, Bombay sir.
Hello. Can we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can start now.
Uh, WRC admin, can you check that faculty has joined so that we can start?
I think Birla sir
Yes,
is
sir.
not here. Birla sir has not joined.
Birla sir join within 5 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Admin, can you confirm? Everybody's there. We can start so that otherwise, tell us that when we'll start.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You participate in the webinar on the topics using the power of data analytics and dashboard for improving organization. On behalf of the Pipri Chinchwad Akudi chapter, I would like to request CMA Harshad Deshpande, Chairman of PD Committee WRC, please give the welcome speech. Over to you, sir. Deshpande, sir. Deshpande, sir.
Yes,
The,
Vikas Pujanka, can you confirm?
Yes, sir. Sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not able to hear you.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Deshpande, sir.
Yes.
I am
Can we
audible?
start? Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Start the program with welcome speech.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, all of you, and welcome to this joint program along with this Pimpri chapter and also Kolhapur chapter. I am also thankful to the both managing committee members and chairman of both the chapters for consenting for this nice program. So this is second in a row that we are organizing this Saturday. So friends, this topic, as you can see from the last program, this is a very relevant topic, that data analytics for the performance improvement. So this is something which is the need of the industry, and we are thankful to our faculties that they have given this great presentation. So thank you very much, sir, and we look forward for hear from you. And thank you very much for accepting our invitation. I request to the next our chairman to take this forward.
I think Birla sir not yet joined. So I request our PD committee chairman, CMA Sagar Malpure, please introduce the speaker.
Hello, good evening all. A warm welcome to all the members and the management committee member of the Kolhapur chapter WRC and the members of the Pimpri Ragode chapter who have joined the today's webinar. So today I would like to introduce Dr. Ban Sharma sir. Ban Sharma sir, basically first I would like to thank to you for accepting our invitation for taking out the CEP. for our institute. So if I want to introduce the Ban sir, then Ban sir has almost 20 years of experience across the various sectors ranging from the power to the consumer sector. And he has worked in many sectors like IT, information technology, manufacturing, dairy industry, pharmaceutical, and water. He has also given his wide and the extensive national and international needs. He has also having the wide and extensive experience on the working in the various field. If we talk about the his experience, he started with his career with the Energy and Resource Institute, which is called in short form it is known as a TERI, which is located at New Delhi, as a research associate. So he was associated over there for 2 years. After that, he was associated with the Enron India Private Limited, Mumbai, as a manager in the regulatory and government affairs. After the Enron, he has also worked with the various MNCs like Tata Consultancy Services and the GE Capital International Services. After that, uh, he was associated with GVS Technologies Private Limited at Chennai as a vice president, and he was there almost for the 8 years in the strategic and operations department. After that, was associated with the Water Health International as a chief secretariat officer for for the department of the IT and the strategy head. After that, right now he is associated with the Clear Measurement Solution Private Limited, and he is a founder and the CEO of the same. So, if we talk about his education, so Ban Sharma sir has completed the PhD in economics from the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research in from Mumbai in the year 2000. He has a topic for the PhD as a modeling frameworks for electric utility generation and the transmission expansion planning. He is also holding the PG diploma from the IGIDR Mumbai in 1995 in the development policy. He is also completed the Master of Science from the University of Lucknow in 1992 in the physics. So again, welcome to Ban Sharma sir, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sagar, sir. And I really would like to thank the CMA organization as a whole for giving us this opportunity to share with you all our industry experience in a collective perspective, both from a data perspective and as well as where the technology is moving towards right now. Before I go to the topic, I would like to definitely thank the chairman, Mr. Birla, sir, Mr. Deshpande, sir, Vachan, sir, Mr. Sagar, sir, for the nice introduction, and Mr. P.T. Kumar, sir, for the Kolhapur Sangli chapter. And I also would like to thank my first client was Gokul Dairy, and in that context, I met, um, you know, the manager costing there, who's been a kind of a lifetime friend, and who is the person who really introduced me to CMA, Mr. Anand Karpe, sir. I have met a lot of people at a leadership level over the years, especially during clear measurement, especially in India. During my international travels, I've met CFOs and many other CIOs and other people across the globe. In the process, I've met Mr. Srikanth, who's the CFO of Willow Pumps, and I'll also be introducing him down the line and seeking his time as well during the course of this presentation. Mr. Srikanth, sir, brings a different perspective, being a CMA himself, and I would definitely call upon him. And the way we have organized this particular session is into three parts. The first part is to put into context from a CMA perspective where analytics stands and what this dashboards and all that really mean for the community as a whole. The second part, I'll run very quickly through clear measurement and what we do, just to give you a perspective. The third part, is I'll give you an interactive demo on a cloud where you can see the power of analysis, interactive manner in which you can see it. It's a it's kind of a very interactive live session. I'll try and give it so that you all get a first-hand perspective of what an integrated interactive data analytic dashboard would mean for for all the viewers out here. And towards the end, me and Mr. Srikanth will spend some time to look at this whole perspective from what are the problems the industry is having, what are the opportunities that are there. And in that context, I will elicit Mr. Srikanth's response to give you a first-hand view from a CMA himself, and after setting the stage on how we see it from a data perspective ourselves. Jumping directly into the topic without much delay. The end, I have wanted to add something called, this is an alternative path that assures growth, and we have seen a sizable amount of ROIs across various engagements. This is an alternative path that assures growth not just for the organization but for the individual, whosoever it is, even for an IT professional, the CMA professional. We interact with CAs, a very varied set of people on the production floor, the HODs, the MDs, the CEOs. So this path definitely adds value and sizable proportions. I will jump directly into it by saying I wanted to set a stage on what the CMA is, and in that context, since I'm talking to you people, I've interacted with a few of them as well. The role that is defined as per, and let me be honest here, it's from Google, is that you are the torch bearers from a cost perspective, and in terms of whether it is competitiveness, performance of the individuals, or from financial perspective, audit perspective, taxation, and many. So in short, if you were to summarize the CMA community as a whole, I see them as professionals who are very good at numbers from an organization-wide perspective. They're not just looking at one aspect of it. They're touching virtually different aspects of the organization. So with that in the background, I would also like to look at the objectives, not just for the role, but where the organizations are using such people and where they're looking at. And what I could quickly summarize it was in this perspective that profitability is core to any organization. That's also an important aspect of this community. And if you're trying to achieve it, the levers that you have is by either through sales volume to increase the revenues, through price increases or variations, and the costs. And I also threw in efficiency improvements here, because a significant amount of data analytic interventions tend to be efficiency improvements. And I'll touch upon a few live cases just to give you a first-hand idea about what efficiency improvements we've done and what you can also look at in the industry. There are other expectations apart from just these. Definitely every management wants KPIs, and there are different KPIs that are needed as of yesterday, dynamically available. Some of them are month on month, year on year, and any investment that goes on the ROI part of it. So if this is to summarize in brief, and we also work with the financial sector in particular, and financial half of the organization. All that we do has been mostly with the financial world of the organization. Having said that as a background, I also want to throw in a perspective, an experience that we had with the pharmaceutical major, just to relate from a cost perspective, to set the stage of a problem statement. This is about 1,000 crore company, and we did it as early as this March this year, 2021. The problem statement specifically to the MD was to automate the weekly updates as regards the revenue, contribution, and EBITDA of the organization. They had a plan, they had a budget for the year, and they wanted to track it month on month, quarter on quarter, and the entire process was being done manually. If you see on the right side, the challenge has been that there are two very diverse business units. One makes standard products. These are called the API. This is an API industry, active pharmaceutical ingredients. And the consumer of these products are basically the large pharma companies like Lupin and others. They also have project mode. So very diverse business units. Most of the data comes from different sources and is in Excel. they incidentally invested in SAP, but they haven't used SAP very extensively. And I'm trying to set a background here from a technology perspective as well, because this is all about data at the end of it. So the SAP was largely used for invoicing purposes, and the biggest challenge was that the product names were, varying from one source to another, and I'll touch upon that in a minute. I'll give you a very exact naming form part of it. And the operational challenge was, how do you combine two very different business units? Apart from VLOOKUPs, the entire thing is done in Excel. And, one has product names, one has milestones. Within milestones, if you go deeper, it goes down to payment received. We don't know which customer, but a general milestone, payment received. So these are the operational challenges of data. On the flip side, on the left side, you see what the MD is really wanting, and actionable information. And not just that, there were about 76 Excel sheets, 76 sheets or tabs in just one Excel file. It's just that, these have evolved inorganically. Analysts and different people who are working in various roles are used to delivering this. And because there are linkages from one tab to another tab to so on. And by the way, this is not just for India. Way back in 2005, when I was in the UK, they had about 5 different Excel sheets, again a finance team there. They were all being integrated in Excel, and the biggest challenge was there was VB scripting done at the back end in Excel itself. And the problem the company was facing was the guy who was doing this, he single-handedly set up the entire thing. He knew the whole thing. He got an excellent opportunity. He moved on. And nobody else was there to know what exactly happened, how to run it. So that's the real life challenges that decision makers feel. And at times, this is where, what you're seeing, the entire topic of data analytics, the automation, the dashboards, and even artificial intelligence is coming into, is how do we, make some of these more repeatable and reliable. And I'll throw in, what is the trade-off in all this that the management felt? They felt there was a lot of time gone before they could get an update. And this is sometimes the quality of data in terms of the number, whether the number was sacrosanct or not, took more time than normal. And when it came to contribution, this is an area was specifically of interest to them, because when you look at something like a product, and there are very many different products in the pharma industry, some have more input costs, some have a less input cost. Which product do you prioritize for production? Which customer would you prioritize, or which customer would you not like to lose, even if the margins are low? Those are the questions that the management has been pulling their hair on. And they were looking at a way they could do this scenario analysis, at the same time trying to protect the budgetary targets for contribution that they had for the year. And it was in this backdrop that we were introduced to this client. And I'll also throw in just one more perspective on this to give you that if you were to look at the trade-off in terms of costs, and since we are talking about to a costing community, this whole job took about 5 employees, and a rule of thumb, don't hold me to numbers here, 50,000 per resource per month, and updates you receive only 4 times a month. Versus if you integrate the various data sources, if you use an application like system like SAP, and you can integrate Excel so long as they are consistent, but not desirable. And even if they spend this amount of money and are assured daily updates, the management is forced to move this direction. And in this context, we had to fight against EY, Ernst & Young, to get this contract. So these are the challenges that I wanted to give you a backdrop of. And everywhere, given COVID and all that, cost has really been a major focus, and you people are just in the right place at the right time. And to summarize it, this was the world of data that was there. And if you see the product names, I know it's a bit, they had a rolling plan from the sales, they had budgets from sales, they had dispatches from that the sales wanted, they were estimates, production has its own budgets, they promised some dispatches, and there were a ton of Excel sheets in between and something from SAP. This is the way it looks when you open the entire thing, when you open the top layer and you go deeper. This is what the world is trying to see. Can we look at automation of this? And a major benefit of this comes through the world of data analytics, And I'll move to the other part. Is these are the two key players in the organizations. One are the analysts who spend hours together. They collate and collect information. They analyze the data. They extract information from different data sources. They are the custodians of validation and data quality, given that they are integrating information from production, from procurement, from sales, and even the costing numbers are from, within the organization, and they coordinate with different stakeholders. And this is their kind of world. On the flip side, the decision makers are equally challenged because they are being pushed on different perspectives of the KPI year on year, month on month, quarter on quarter, same month last year versus this year, trends. And they are also pressed they are also being pressed to say provide us alternatives, be proactive to the underlying business environmental conditions, and be competitive conscious. So these are the two worlds which are now colliding, knowingly or unknowingly, because this is where the pressure is from the market on the decision maker side. On the analyst side, these are the custodians who are crunching together numbers, and I'm sure most people here are familiar with both the worlds. And what this does is it sets an expectation. On this community, the analyst community, that they need to find possible solutions to problems. They need to be future focused, know what's happening outside, know what else can be used. And there are a ton of tools that are out there. Everybody knows a lot of terminologies and jargons now. BI, business intelligence, is one place. SAP has its own version of it. Microsoft has its own version. And they are also expected to evolve with time and acquire new skills. Obviously, this is, it applies to us and everybody here that is delivered as of yesterday. So, and in all this, there is an underlying process. I'll touch upon that process very briefly. The process is very simple. No rocket science here. There's data, you're pulling it from different places. Data needs to be converted to information. And later on, when Robin, my friend, Mr. Srikanth, we will be spending more time on this. And they are the decision makers and the analysts who are to look at numbers. Till now, these guys analyze, these guys need the insights to work upon it. But more importantly, it's not a parallel need, it's a parallel need, not a sequential need. That means while the analysts are working on it, the decision makers also need insight. They cannot wait for it. That's the major transition that has happened in the last few years, that, the analysis work is an ever ongoing. The challenges have increased, the requirements have increased, but the decision-making compulsions are demanding insights as of yesterday. And this is the process. This is the world we are in right now. This is where we are. And it is in this context that I'll be going deeper into a live interactive session, into a live dashboard, if you were to call that, and taking specific problem statements from some industries to talk about. And the reality is, and I'll put nobody else other than McKinsey here for your reference here, and this is as of April 2020, and there has been, you know it more than anybody else. And McKinsey says that data strategy in the time of crisis is a critical, imminent need. What used to be a 1 to 3 year plan is now a matter of days to a week. So this is the background in which I wanted to kind of, share with you, and now move on to, a bit about what we do, and before I jump into a live interactive session. So I'll just briefly touch about what we do to give you an idea, just to share with you that, what we saw from our experience from different companies, different industries. I'll share this presentation down the line. I'll pause right after that if there are any doubts or clarifications. If you want, I can pause it here. So I'll touch upon briefly about what we do to give you an idea. This is something about us. I'll not take much time. This presentation I can share with you. I'll have already shared with the CMA organization. You can always seek it any point in time. This is what you heard just now. This is what the reality is. There are a lot of Excels, manual data collections, manual steps. Data integration between different sources is difficult. The gaps, updates take time. Technical challenges is because there are too many investments in different kinds of software. There are solutions, but these are outdated. And technical skills are very hard to get. And especially for those companies for whom IT is not a core activity, it becomes prohibitively expensive. So this is the reality. And from a different perspective, if you were to see, this is the way the business looks like. And these are the problems that each department has from its own. And we want to integrate these. We want information to flow freely from each of these. And to that extent, the vision that we are looking at, we would want to create a hub of sorts. We believe every organization should aspire to have information flows from every kind of department, if you were to call it. The real-time world is all now moving away from applications to gathering information from mobiles as well. The field staff is on the mobile interface. If you look at CRMs, they are on the mobile. So data is coming thick and fast, and this is the world that many big companies are already in. And briefly about, we started 2009. Our first customer was Gokul Dairy in Kolhapur. I really thank the chairman and Mr. Anand Karpe in that regard for giving us that opportunity. And over time, we've added into manufacturing. We've gone into pharma. We've also done briefly for a small healthcare company. So, and the problems we have handled are even equally diverse: collections, EBITDA, and I'll show you some of these in a minute. This is about myself. Mr. Sagar has already explained. My colleague is based out of the US. He tries to bring in whatever is available with no extra cost from the Silicon Valley. He's the director, Mr. Hudson Paul. He was with Deloitte. He joined us about a year ago. He's also a founder of 2 startups. He gives a different perspective to the way businesses could be looked at. And some of our customers, before I jump into a demo of sorts, is we've done work in manufacturing, dairy, and real estate as well. What is common to all of them is they're looking at ways to look at sales. They're looking at ways to look at inventory. Can we improve the inventory? Can we improve the collections, payment terms? The things that are common also from a data perspective are data integration issues. Also, there are multiple data sources that they are pulling their hair on. Some people have SAP, some people have Oracle. You have Tally in some places. So, and you can also have Salesforce, or if you are using any other CRM like HubSpot, you can also look at that. Then there are quality issues and obviously change management. Because in all this, the people who are really getting pushed are the people who've been doing it for years, and they're suddenly being challenged by new skills and new technologies that are trying to crunch time. So we are a cloud-based solution, and I will not spend more time. I really want to go into a live session so that you can see something more from there. There are 3 kinds of prospects or customers we've seen: those who are on the legacy side, as in are still clinging on to the old ways of doing things. That's Tally and Excel. A lot of dependencies are there. It takes time, but they're also focused only on few things from a financial perspective. There are those who have invested in softwares like ERPs and CRMs, but these are they're not fully exploited it. They have made investments, they're keen, but not yet fully exploited it. And then there are the aspirational ones for whom data is the goal. How do you reach the path, and they're exploring alternatives in that regard. So where do you want your organizations to be is what we would look at. And so to us, decision makers are always first, and the decision maker starts top down, and it then goes to the HODs, the CFOs, the HODs, and it also goes to even the person who's on the production line floor, the manager there, and so on. But it's an evolutionary process. We set up customizable dashboards, and we integrate to accelerate. We would want to get into machine learning and others. I don't have an example here for machine learning that we did, but a few years back, we did something for a US-based company where the data was really assured. I can touch on I can probably answer towards the end if somebody has some questions on that. I'll touch upon a few case studies. This is the dairy that I mentioned about. There were data inconsistencies, but they really had pretty good data from their ERP, which is a local ERP. But the management's need was more focused on, can I see performances by a region? What happened in Kolhapur, what happened in Sangli, what happened in Goa, by product mix, and which products is selling on which route, which kind of customers are coming up. So they have a very aspirational leadership, and they're very keen on looking at what more can we sell. If milk is the main product, can we sell something like a paneer that is called an upsell strategy? So this was our first customer, and we're very thankful to them for it. This is a manufacturing sector out of a manufacturing company in Hyderabad, and we delivered positively an ROI of more than 10x. And they had multiple problem statements. The most important one was at the production shop floor level. They were looking at ways they could reduce the defects in production. Most of the data from SAP, but the defects were in Excel. We integrated the two, and they could really see the cost of poor quality in production, COPQ, go down significantly in that. And a last one I'll touch is the real estate. This was a 750 crore Hyderabad-based real estate, a large player. And the MD himself was personally keen on looking at what is the collections that I'm expecting this month. And when you look at collections here, imagine you have 6-7 different towers that are getting constructed. Some towers are in ground floor, is not yet started. Some towers are, there's construction up to 5th floor, some up to 1st floor, some up to 14th floor. Customer payments are made by pro rata by the floor at which. So you have to dynamically aggregate data in terms of what is pending against it by each customer on each various floors. So this is what they are keen on. This is what we did there. And as the last piece, I'll leave it here. This is what the VP at this company wanted to say, that we are being bombarded by data every day, and we want to analyze live. And we would want that extra vision when we are taking competition head on, because it strengthens our decision-making process. So having said this at the background, I'll jump directly into a live session, and I'll just briefly ask, Sagar sir, are you able to see my screen?
I am able
Yes,
to
sir.
see, so we are able to see. Looks like.
Sure. So, like I said, I'll show you in an interactive manner what it means. This is a manufacturing company that I told you about. This is pretty old, as you can see, 2017, and its access is completely by users. What what the management sees is different from what a shop floor person would see. And this is about cash flows, inflows, and outflows, and you can see it by unit, by a particular unit. This is the interactive power, and this will, since it is running on a local desktop, it will take a bit of time lag, but when on the cloud servers, it rolls up really fairly fast. So it's been, I haven't refreshed it in a while. So what people are looking at, can we do it in a much more interactive manner? Can I quickly dive it into, what are the expenses that I have to make for that particular unit, ways in which I look at it? And who are the major customers, who are the major vendors whom I need to pay? What is their month-on-month payment? Who's the biggest vendor that I had to pay last month versus this month? And more importantly, they wanted this segmentation in terms of income that is coming in, because many times some of this, given the payment terms, there are bill discounting that happens. You borrow from the banks, you get about 80% credit from them. So to that extent, there are collections that are coming in cash, there are bill discounting happening, there are salaries from an expense side. All these raw data is not readily available in these buckets. There are other payments, raw material suppliers. You need to bucketize them, segment them. Probably most of these are being done in Excel. If the same were replicated and set up in an automatic mode, a lot of people at the management level will benefit something like this, and then you can forecast it down the line. And these were the interest payments to various banks, and they wanted to keep an eye on that. I just showed you one part of it, but if I go into that was more from a period perspective. If you look at it, each dashboard has its own theme. This is from a start date and date perspective. You can analyze it from a month, for a day, for a week, completely customized to the way you would want to see it. But when you go down to a shop floor level, you can literally see it for a day, and I'll randomly check to another day in the past. And you will see that it will literally go down to the people who are working on a shift, the production that happened on that day, the defects that happened during the day. To that level of granularity is the requirement that is emerging right now. And there's a famous principle that we call the Pareto principle. So if you were to zoom in, 80%, 80% of the defects were happening because of this thing called cloth crease. And now if you want to know where it happened, when it happened, you can selectively zoom in to cloth crease and you can say that on this day, most of it happened in shift 3. So that's the way, you know, this piece that you see here, the shift-wise defects, was not initially there. What was initially there was over just this Pareto principle in terms of 80-20, what were the, you know, defects there. Over time, they realized they wanted this to specifically work on it and say, where can we help this guy who's working on shift 3? And probably it's because of embossing Mr. Mahitabali. So that's the way they used it. And what this resulted in is cost of poor quality, the COPQ that you're talking about here, the KPI that they were tracking. And this is where they were tracking is at a unit level performance, each production unit, which is happening where, what is the month-on-month production, what are the defects that happen, and which was the major reason for the defect. And you can drill down deeper into, I want to just look at one product and what was the production cycle of that, what are the defects in that. So this interactive capability is where the world is heading. This is what is called as a dashboard. And by the way, we still not talked about analytics. The little bit of analytics we started talking was here in terms of, you know, when you're looking at details and you're really making an actionable intelligence of where to take an action. That's when you start probing the past, you look at various patterns. That's when you're starting to do that. A third version they wanted to see was from a customer perspective in terms of who are the best customers, who are the customers who were there for a long time. And again, this is, if I'll show you a data, this is some, this is not really an actual data. So this is past data. So to that extent, you know, some of this is dated information as well. You know, and you can download data as well because this is being integrated from different modules of SAP. You can also download it and see it, and I'll show you in 1 minute. I'm going to quickly look at just 2017. I'm going to look at the month of March. I'm going to look at just one product, one unit. I'm going to look at one product. And I'm going to look at, go deeper into it. I don't need anybody else. I can do it myself. Whosoever is the person who's looking at it, they can analyze it, they can go deeper, they can find patterns, and they can say what went right, what went wrong. They can focus the better time that they have on strategy development. Obviously, you would want to go deeper in analysis. So you can, some of the analyst community can take this data further and analyze it more deeper. So, and when you in a real interactive world, when it is on the website, it is on the cloud server, it will be super fast compared to this. That's what the assurance is, because we have taken it off. So when you go deeper to this, you see the biggest player is a company called Dymos, and you can look at literally choose Dymos. So since this is old data or not so relevant data, you'll have to, otherwise it will be ordered in an alphabetical manner. So what happened in the month of July is a question, and then they also can look at who is the largest customer by billing, quantity, invoice amount, who's the best customer by rate, who owes me the maximum amount of money. And this helped them really recover a fair amount of money and discipline their entire collections team in that sense. So this is the power of an interactive analytical interface on the cloud, the dashboards that the world is heading. And this is just a manufacturing sector, and I'll quickly jump into real estate demo. But before I go into that, I just want to briefly take a pause here and ask a few questions. If anybody has anything, they want anything specific, you can drop me a line and I'll look at your comments if you have any, and I can probably answer a few questions here. Before I show you another interactive session on the same thing from a different industry perspective. I'll also be showing you pharma, which is still not ready, but if anybody has a question, I'm open to that right now. Or I can ask. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sharma. If it is okay with you, I can just share my experience for a couple of minutes. Okay?
Sure, sir. Shrikant sir, always welcome.
From industry perspective. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Just for the information of my colleagues here, I passed out in 92, and from 92 I'm in one or the other industry. Okay. The trends that I'm seeing are the expectations on the profit are going up day by day. Today, if you pick up any company, I mean, which is doing well and paying its employees quite well, other than IT, the EBITs are ranging in the range of 8 to 10%. The expectations from managements are increasing day by day, and that is putting a lot of pressure on the entire the finance community. You be a cost accountant or a chartered accountant, whatever. But if you are in the finance, there is a lot of pressure on you. Generally, the profit is in the range of 10%. So what is carved out for finance as a percentage of sales is somewhere in the range of 0.5% to 0.75%. So we are therefore expected to manage the entire department, which is including finance, accounts, taxation, costing, MIS, IT. All that has to be handled in the range of 0.5% to 0.7% of the turnover. If that is to be done, then we have to have a very efficient finance department. Now, how to structure it? We can either pay very less to our people, then we end up doing injustice to our own colleagues. Okay, if not, if you remember, in earlier days there used to be a department called MIS department. That MIS department had nothing like 7 to 8 people, only crunching data, converting raw data into finished. And by the time it reached the MD's table, it used to take at least 10 to 15 days. And MD would certainly say, this is a stale data, I know all this. Today also I'm getting some comments here and there in various forums that I attend, that the finance department is data cruncher. What is expected by the management or the CEO is you give actionable data as early as possible and as cheap as possible. You can't spend a lot of money only on the data. From when you have on one side the pressure on the EBIT, other side your own department is sized to a ratio of around 0.5 to 0.7% of the turnover. Unless you have efficient tools with you, I will not say this tool or that tool, unless you structure the department well and have efficient tools with you, it is going to be a big challenge in satisfying the management on the delivery part of it. Okay, so I request all my colleagues to generally have a look on how you are structuring the departments. Are we putting more people on creating data, analyzing data, or are we putting less people there and more people on the decision part of it, or what you call as business connect? If in case we have to move from data crunchers or data entry operators to decision makers, then it's absolutely essential in one way or the other, I will not specify a particular way, one way or the other, to spend less efforts on creating data and analyzing data and come very fast to the end of it, that is the decision making or the support to management. Okay, from that perspective, I found this entire discussion to be very interesting, and it's my experience around 25 years across various companies. Everywhere I found that we were falling short of management expectations on delivering the actionable data on time. Now there are two things here. One is the actionable data. No CEO or a chairman of a company is interested in looking at 25 sheets and 25 pages. He wants a very quick, what you call, they call it cockpit or kind of thing, that kind of data, and very quickly and coming at a reasonable rate. From that perspective, I feel we must always have our eye on such kind of tools and try and use them as much in our companies so that we are able to be efficient on the cost part of it. Otherwise, it will be like it's a dark below the lamp, what you call. We teach others how to be efficient, and we are ourselves not so efficient. So fine. I mean, over to Mr. Sharma. With this was my entire thought process behind this.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikant. And I had personally requested Mr. Shrikant, a professional friend, for a few years, I know now, because we've been exchanging notes and we saw that there's an opportunity, but it is scary. Let me be honest on that. It's scary because, even at my age, when I go there and I'm saying there's so many new tools that are crunching time, saving, the way the world is heading towards, is that so much of things are getting automated. And since I'm an ex-GE, from a GE pass out myself in terms of having worked there, recently things that I learned about GE and I'm sharing with you here what GE is trying to do is that when you raise an invoice, the invoice should automatically be posted into the backend database of an ERP. They're using a machine learning tool from an invoice. The moment invoice hits, automatically the remaining entries happen, and it's the ERP is getting updated. The reports are generated using an automation, and the entire process they're trying to make it paperless, because they really want to really crunch time. They really want to reduce time. And GE, very much in Hyderabad and in Bangalore, that's where most of the world people and most of the analytic community originated here. IT guys are here. Having spent about 7 years in IT, what I've realized that is it is inevitable. IT is already knocking it, and COVID has all the more made it necessary. A recent experience, and this is a live customer we have right now, a laboratory. Excuse me. This is a pharma company, about 400 crores, and we were in fact yesterday on a call with the MD there, and he's looking at stock reconciliation. Everywhere we go, it boils down to traceability, it boils down to visibility, and there's a terminology I will use called VCP, and this is not something I coined. This is something I acquired by interacting people from a BNI community, and it's called VCP is called visibility plus credibility leads to profitability. Since we are talking on the topic of profitability, whether it is at an individual level or it's an organization level, the need is the same. They want visibility to things. They want credibility that the numbers are reliable, and this mix, if you get it right, it guarantees profitability by default. So this company that we are talking right now, this pharma company here in Hyderabad, the thing that they're wanting is there is a stock. There are 4 production units. The store is issuing raw materials and solvents on a daily basis. There is production happening across various batches, across various stages in different reactors. So the issue is happening to them, and there are about 100 raw materials. There are about 20 odd solvents, and at the end of the day, books are updated sometimes after 24 hours, depending upon the production cycle time in the reactors. And there's so much of information, and it's amazing. The quality of information that you see there is amazing. The strategy that you can make. Some questions that can be answered from that is, which solvent is the one that I frequently use? Who are the vendors who are my reliable vendors in this? And what COVID taught the pharma company was especially that we should not depend on China. Maybe we should have our own in-house factories. People have done a vertical integration or moved into other area. New people have come into new production activities. So the ability to respond faster, quicker, and better is the critical thing. So when they started looking at this reconciliation, at the end of the month, the key guy whom they were paying about 1.5 lakhs a month, it's not a small amount, like Mr. Shrikant said, in the finance department, it's an important amount. The job of the person was to do simple words called exception management. Wherever there is a defect or wherever there is an opportunity to save, let's go save it. Wherever there is an opportunity to increase production, let's say, get into that. COVID opened a new set of opportunities to make revenue. They wanted an agile backend to respond to that. So this person's job was to focus on these activities, but instead, it took more than 50% of his time, a very senior person from the industry, to just clean the data, process the data, and make sense out of the data. Because sometimes there is typo. He says instead of 10, there is 100. By the time he figures out that there is a reconciliation issue between issue and consumption, like that at a micro level, he has to reconcile because numbers are sacrosanct. It took a lot of time. Now we are trying to automate the entire process, and it is not an easy thing. The change is a difficult thing. So they were used to reporting on a, weekly basis. The entire reconciliation was once in a month. But if you think over it, the reconciliation should be on a daily basis. What is the basic unit of reconciliation? On a day, what has been issued should be consumed. The traceability between the two should be established. There's data there, and combined with this visibility, they need triggers and alerts to say, oh, there is a typo, can you check on this? Oh, this raw material ratios are not tallying up. something wrong, just check on these numbers. The output should be far more based on the raw material that you have got. Please check on this, so that people who have made that can go back and correct. Nobody does it deliberately. It's just a pressure of time. It's multitasking at times that leads to some of these things. That's where intelligence is needed. Intelligence is needed for all people in the value chain. For people at the top, for people on the ground who are looking at this, for production heads of departments like production, procurement, so that they know what to, before they procure, they need to look at minimum order quantity. And there's so many dynamics at play to make an organization work. And what we are trying to say here is, let's leverage the power of analytics to automate that 60 to 70% of the jobs which are repetitive, those reports which have to be viewed on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, so that the management needs it. Let's automate them off, so that the analyst community, even the CFO at an airport might want to look at it. They can spend their time analyzing on opportunities and spotting opportunities for efficiency improvement, for ways to reduce costs, for looking at ways to increase revenue, prioritize even dispatch. Sorry? So prioritize and dispatch, because you have so many competing customers for requirements, and you cannot make them unhappy, especially those who are really the paying customers. So in this context, I'll just quickly jump to another part, a totally different perspective, just to give you an idea what a dashboard looks like. I'm sure some of you or many of you might have seen it. But the objective was to show you an interactive interface. This is fully customizable, and what you need to do is just draw it on a paper, show us the sources, we can do it. Once this 60-70% is automated, the rest of 30% or 40% of the analyst community can then focus on something like, let me just quickly look at those customers those projects which have completed 90% and above is one segment. Now, how many people have paid within that? Less than 30%. So people who have paid less than 30%, and if just I apply that, I see there are about 3 crores is spending from 8 units, and these are the various sales guys accountable for that. Like that, there are so many strategies. We as facilitators can only give you an interface, but these are the exception reports and strategies that we need your help to develop. That's where this community, who's very good at numbers, can focus on, is automate the regular stuff, focus on looking at the patterns within that and looking at those opportunities which can be targeted. And this is just one part of it. And if I were to look at, another aspect of it, I can tear apart this from another perspective, look at clear all. And I'll just say, let's look at those where are, less than 30% completed. The projects still are under development, not yet completed. How much money is stuck there? Is it because of time? There's hardly any money. That's a good sign. So there's no money to be there printing. It just started. So you can look at an aging report here, and you can look at those which are pretty old, more than 90 days old. How much is the money stuck? More than 90 days old. So that's 3 months out, and you can apply and you can look at, there are 43 flats, 5 crores. Imagine the dynamics. These are the different flats, F, G, H, various stages of construction, and what the management is really looking at. Oh, I need to talk to these 27 flat owners for 2 crores. And who are the sales guys who are accountable for that? The biggest guy happens to be somebody called Pramod Shah. So it's things like these, that it is interfaces like these, that's where the demand is coming in. And most companies are being challenged to look at it. And if you really want data behind it, just click a report, because numbers are something everybody is keen on. They want to see the numbers behind it. And these numbers are responsive to that. You can look at exactly the numbers that you want. You can go in total revenue, total dues, total bill, total paid. Most of this will come from your ERP. And if you look at, some of you, if you have seen an SAP or something like an SAP, I'll show you an SAP report here. This is the YSDS report, the sales report from SAP. This is for March, because out here I've chosen March. And if you want to look at another month and want to look at data for that, you can immediately get it. So whatever data you want already filtered upon, you can focus on it. as an extract from the dashboards itself. But first, automate these repetitive tasks so that you can help the management, and in the process look at ways to grow the business better, opportunities to streamline things better. That's where the pressures are. That's where the world is heading towards, and that's the piece that I wanted to leave you with at this point. And this is the very first thing that I started with, which was a pharma company, and I'll touch upon that in a minute. You wanted to see data at the back end, invoice data, you can look at invoice data. You can go deeper. Just like in an Excel, you can filter it by a particular product. You can filter it by customer. Let's say it's something called SD Plus. So this is all on the interface. And you can do analysis there. You can look at the product names. You can look at costs. And once you can simply even do an upload from your system. This is the world we are heading towards. And once you have uploaded all this, what you really want to see is what the management on top really wants to see is EBITDA, like Mr. Srikanth himself said. But what the people below need to validate is what happened where at a granular level, by a customer level. And you can tear it up. And I'll just look at just one business unit here. And I can just look at for just what has been dispatched, what has been invoiced. You can analyze that. This is what you want to set it up. And then you want to do a comparison. What happened last month, this month. We cannot share this information completely, so we'll have my hands tied here. But to that extent, you want an interactive, comparative way to look at it. So most of this analysis, which will help you validate your numbers, respond very quickly in terms of if there's ways to correct something, respond quickly in terms of opportunities where you can focus on. So this is where we wanted to kind of share with you. I'll jump quickly back here to say that, this is what the world is heading towards. There's a paradox on one side. The decision maker is stuck with a lot of problems. There are statutory compliances and pressures that are there. There are, decisions which need to be executed and timely information has to be enabled. There are compelling opportunities with real-time outcome possibilities that they have to look at. And then there's this whole world of people process technology. This is where digitalization is really hitting hard. Technology is trying to do is wherever people are there, let's try and innovate. Wherever processes are there, let's automate it. And this is when people absorb those processes and use it well, it's all scale. So our belief is your business better. But it's time to enable real-time insights and give you that extra time, so that you can spend that time to make decisions. I understand you had a session on a Microsoft DI tool. That's one of the tools that would enable you to do something similar like what we have here. But if all of us start doing it, then the decision makers are stuck. So what we are trying to propose here is, and like I said earlier, going back, there are two competing requirements. One is the need to analyze and find opportunities. The other is the need to take and provide decision makers the insight so that they can take the decisions. These are two compelling needs that are existing right now. And this is where all the automation is hitting. Let's use technology. And in that sense, cloud is an amazing place. And that's providing, an excellent way to crunch time, because IT before was talked about investment in servers and SAPs and ERPs. Those are still there. But even the same SAPs are going on cloud. On a cloud, it's like a service on tap, and you can quickly install a server. Obviously, you need some competence, so that's where, IT companies, especially the core IT companies, really come in. But for the others, is to partner with people who are really good at bringing these two together. And we saw an example from McKinsey again. That's for Tata Steel. They spent about 15 years in trying to automate the process. And that's why if you see Tata Steel right now in the stock market is really hot. Right now it's a bad period, but a few months back, if you were seeing, it was running crazily because they have automated the processes. And they hired the likes of McKinsey to kind of look at opportunities where they can look at it. So the market leaders are already pushed for it. They're already looking at it. And the people who really now need to start looking at it. And this is what, is where I would like to leave it as a thought for you. I showed you the interactive demo, but in short, I would want to summarize it and open the floor for any questions if you have. Is we need to adopt a problem-solving approach, and this is where me and Mr. Srikanth had a, very few interactive sessions, very many interactive sessions on fundamental orientation should be like, what are the problems out there that can be solved, and automate those tasks, acquire new skills if need be, and find opportunities to bring in the efficiencies that are there. And ROI is assured beyond doubt, and we have personally seen it, both at a personal level and at an organizational level. And I don't want to promote attrition here, but at the same time, I would want to add a fact here. For those of you who are wanting to acquire skills, especially the younger guys here, the analyst community is really, really very hard. It's very difficult to really get good people who have techno-analytical skills. But on a leadership level, it's equally demanding and, and exciting more than anything else. To be able to make a difference, to deliver a difference in terms of the profitability that the organization is chasing. So I thank you all once again, and I'll open the floor here. You have my details. I will share this presentation and the corporate presentation anytime. I'm reachable anytime on these numbers. Mr. Srikanth, I just want to seek just one more question from you. Is it fine?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So if you were to take up 2 or 3 issues, I know these are competing things, whether it's from a production side or from a costing side in terms of procurement or from a sales side. I don't think there's a priority in any which case. Where do you think is the most important need for right now exists in terms of where should the energies be more higher, which department needs an immediate attention, or do you feel all of them are in simultaneous need there?
I would say all of them are in simultaneous need, okay? Because competition is highly fierce. I mean, it's very difficult to survive in the industry. It is becoming increasingly difficult after COVID situation, where the way of doing business has changed overnight. Right. It has changed overnight, okay? There was a time when we were valuing the faces. We wanted people in front of us. Today, it's all faceless. Right. So your personal skills and your reputation with your bosses and reputation with the customers is hardly working. Everything is becoming faceless. So I wouldn't say that one department has to move faster than the other. All have to move in sync together. Okay. Right from R&D who has to understand what product would be required 5 years down the line and start producing them today or start designing them today. Right. To the other end, where a salesperson has to understand where the project is going to come. Right. People are also sending people here and there. I have seen the industry where I work. People are sent on the motorbike to see where the digging is being done and where the fence is being put up, so that tomorrow the building will come up and day after tomorrow the pump would be required there. So no department has to be left behind. So that is called, yeah.
Which brings me to an interesting piece. That means that, like what we were talking earlier, if it is not a departmental way to look at it, then it means that it is a problem way to look at it, right? That's what you were saying.
It's a problem way.
So then, is there 1 or 2 problems you would want to start somewhere, or I always believed it has to be a top-down. That's what a balanced scorecard principle was about, because the sponsor and champion on top is always pressed to know what's happening. But I might be biased a bit, but any specific problem statements that you think are really critical, because there are problem statements in the collection side, there on the cash flow side, the problem statements with production specific, department specific. What is your view on that?
So today, the industry that I work in, at least for last couple of years, last 10 years, we see 2 problems. One is on the profitability and other is on the collection. Where the order is good, the moment my salespeople say the order is good, I know the money is not going to come, because it is profit on paper.
Right.
Okay. Or if the money is going to come, then the profit is not going to come. Okay. So you get either of the 2. In 80% of the orders, there will be 20% of the orders where you get both, and then 10% where you get both, and 10% you get nothing.
Got it.
So that's what that is. I feel that's an industry problem. wherever I have gone for these IMA sessions and all that, I felt that there are two problems being spelled out. One is the cash flow, that's the recovery not happening, and second is the profitability.
Got
But
it.
see, there are some intelligent people who use some different companies to sell their products.
Hmm.
So let me tell you now, pump industry. When we sell the pump, it has to be driven either by a motor or an engine.
Hmm.
Now the motor or engine is sold to us at a certain credit. They take their profit and the money.
Right.
We sell the complete product. We get our money much later.
Hmm.
So in the presentation to one of the engine suppliers, I was telling him that I am his financer, and I convinced him that I was his financer.
Right.
Because before I sell the motor to my customer, I have paid his money.
Ah.
So it's like that, you know.
Got it. Got it. In fact, you picked on a very relevant point called the cash cycle, and this is from an experience from a pharma company which we delivered earlier this month or this year, and this is coming from a US strategy consultant that they had, and they say this is the principle that Amazon uses. They say
Yeah.
that, and I think you have touched upon it. They say that exactly what you said. I have to pay my vendor first because without that I don't get the payment. I don't get the raw material. So assuming I already paid him, and by the time the product is ready, I am selling it, the customer will pay me say 30 days, 60 days, or whatever payment term is. So in between all this, I paid an advance to the vendor. The material might take a month to come, and it takes me some time to produce, and then I am shipping it to a customer who would have his own payment terms, which will take 30, 60, or 90. In entire this cycle, 1 year is lost, and they say that whatever revenue you made, you need to discount for the 1 year that you lost in terms of cash collection. I never heard this, but this is what was shocking, and this is what Amazon, I'm told, is really as a mantra pursuing. So to that extent, this is something which is burning critical, that we start valuing cash, but previously it was cash in liquid form, but the only way we can crunch cash is by automating things, I guess.
Okay, I'll share a small personal story on this.
Sure, sir.
When I was very young, I once came to know that the vegetable vendors, they take money from the money lenders at 2% per week.
Right.
So I calculated as a cost accountant, 2% per week is 102%, 104% per year. And I was wondering as to what he would be left with. But then I came to know that he earns 10% a day on that.
10% a day on that.
Because I buy vegetable in the morning for 100 rupees and sell it for 110 in the evening.
Wow. Wow.
So he makes 10% on per day. So he was happy to pay 2% a week.
Yes, smart. Yes, they are smarter than us.
So this is, it leads to that cash has to be there. You look at in India or anywhere, the companies that have got closed or had to be shut down, not because of profit, but because they had no cash flow.
Right.
So first is cash, then is profit.
Right.
In the ranking, I would put cash first and then profit.
Which is another piece that, and since you must be familiar with that, is that this whole thing called bill discounting, and we have this credit lines that are available, and a fair amount of dependencies on multiple banks in that sense to kind of borrow money to keep the cash alive, the cash flow liquid. And you've been talking about it. How much is the bank dependency, you would say? Because it seems like companies are ending up trying to make banks viable, I guess, at some point.
There's a huge dependency. I mean, except the MNCs where they are cash rich. All other companies depend heavily on early collection.
Oh, okay.
But there are these foundries in Pune who are trapped by automobile suppliers by paying on time. I mean, I will not name the companies, but you supply to automobile and you are paid on maybe 8th day or 10th day, and you get into a cycle of getting money on 10th day. You can't go away from the customer, even if it's not profitable.
Right.
So they trap you, they make you addicted to getting money on the 7th or the 8th day, and for your life, you are there kind of a bonded labor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works,
Sure, sir. And I think I really sincerely thank you for your time. I would also want to open the floor if anybody has any questions at this point. We can always answer you there and then, or I'll share the presentation. You can go ahead.
Sure, sir. First of all, let me thank you, Ban Sharma sir, for such a wonderful presentation. Let me acknowledge the Srikant sir because his presence in we have seen his presence in physical. Now online also, sir. You are very actively participating in such a program
It's okay, it's
at
okay.
institute level. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, it's
Ban
okay,
sir,
it's
thank you, sir. Ban Sharma, sir, I have two questions. One is technology perspective. The whatever the presentation you share, so you mostly work in the Tableau, yeah, you work on the BI, okay. And the second question is on that the how much would be the cost while implementing such? Just give the overall idea, so we'll get some glimpse on all these technology and perspective.
Sure, sir. First on the Tableau one, I have worked on Tableau. In fact, I use Tableau for requirement gathering when we are interacting from our side. Me and my colleagues use Tableau for requirement gathering and simulating it. And there are other tools like Microsoft BI. But there's a challenge with these tools. The tools are excellent. I won't deny that. What we are doing is something similar, but like what you see here on the screen right now, it's a mimic of Tableau on the cloud. The difference is that when you use a tool like Tableau or any ClickSense or any other Microsoft BI, it is on a per user per month license basis. Okay, and there are different variants of prices to payments to it. The other thing on the Tableau part is that these tools are dependent on the analyst. And if the analyst leaves, you again have to find another analyst to replace, or you have to pay him frightfully expensive amount to retain him. And this is unrelated, but yes, a small town in Agra, and since we are also in the technology space, we heard that 5-year experience old guys to make them retain in the IT industry, they had to pay. This is an MNC in the US which had to pay 35 lakhs for a 5-year experience person there. So these skills are really high in demand. So the biggest beneficiaries of these tools are definitely the individuals. That's where I didn't want to say it bluntly. The ROI is for the individual as well. But at the organization level, if you have licensees which are there and people not there to use it, I would then say use a combination of the ability to automate. That's where what we are also trying to say. 60 to 70% of those standard things that you need from various departments, you need to pull the data, integrate it, and ensure those standard reports, MIS reports that are there on a monthly, daily, weekly basis, and the triggers and alerts. Whenever there's a deviation, you want to manage the business by exception, have those automated. And once you have done that, these tools are also very helpful. You should use the tools because your people know the business, but they should use to develop new strategies. Just like I showed you one here, that when you're looking at collections, who are my loyal customers? Which tower, who's the best salesperson? This is a business your people know better than anybody else. We can give you a dashboard, we can set up an interface, but there's so much data which is now clean, collected, lying at the back end. That data can also be utilized. And we are in fact talking to a large engineering company in Pune, and they are really wanting to integrate multiple ERPs just to say what is the budget versus actual. If there's a deviation, is the deviation because of procurement? Is it because of construction? Is it because of the shop floor, the manufacturing, or is it we have bought out items which are delayed? So there are different aspects of the business. That's where the analyst community should focus to look at ways we can bring those efficiency improvements, tighten those processes. Now, coming to the cost of it, these tools, you will always know, they will not integrate data. They'll provide you a tool. You have to hire consultants to do that. It's like any ERP implementation, who can set up the data integration, or you can learn it over time. That's a very long time taking process. It'll almost be like about $5,000, 5,000 to 2,500 to 5,000 rupees per user per month is the way they are charging. What we are trying to do instead is we don't give you on a per user per month basis because we want to encourage usage, but we have to absorb the cost of the cloud because we don't want you to spend that extra time in IT. We are including a cost in the IT. So we work in a project mode. We work with you. We try to understand your business. We want you to draw on paper what you would like to see, how you would like to see it. And once it is done, we'll set up the dashboard, the standard process reports that are automated, and we'll give you an interactive interface so that you can run your business. The cost of this will, once the project phase is over, will almost be similar to what these guys are talking. It's like an AMC cost at the end of it. Are you with me? Have I answered your question, sir?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And if the size is large, an important aspect of cost here is, I was looking at a company, I think many people know it by now, Tata Projects. This is about a 12,000 crore company, and I met the CFO a few years back before he moved on. Again, too many Excel sheets, too many data sources. Now, if you were to automate a 12,000 crore company with so many Excel sheets, so many districts, so many locations, the cost will be different, because the important parameter of cost is the volume of data. The 3 V's that they call in the big data world: volume, variety, and velocity. How quickly is the data hitting? You're capturing the data. How big is the data that you are collecting? Number of records in the various sheets you have, and the variety of data. In a pharma company, the variety is crazy. They have just too many products. So you have to remember these 3 V's as well in that sense. But it will be not very challenging, because I think the cost will be reasonable. It will not be frightfully expensive. We are trying to do that so that we grow along with you. That's what Clear Measurement is trying to do. But the ROI is more than justifies. We have seen ROI much beyond 10x, much beyond in some cases. But change is in your hands, sir. Any other questions?
Does anybody have a question? Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is regarding streamlining the processes. Like, if we want to get the data, like a precise way or a lightning way, well analyzed. So there is very essential step is like things are well placed at ERP or business processes should be right. So with a consultation done on those areas, because I feel that like a lessly discussed area.
Yeah. If I get you right, you're saying data before processing, or you're talking about data after it has been processed?
Before processing.
Got it. So there is a major amount, and you hit the nail on the head. And I'll relate to a very unrelated example. This is way back in 2009, and I was working with this IT company, and my customer was Sun Microsystems in California, San Jose, Silicon Valley. I was in the US, and I'll talk about the problem statement, which probably would answer your particular perspective. They had costs across various locations across the globe, be it Japan, Korea, China, or US, or even India. So the problem statement was that the management wants, and Sun Microsystems was very anti-Microsoft. So they wanted to ensure that there was no compliance issue. That means people, when they're procuring laptops or anything, they're not buying it from companies like Microsoft. So, and there were other issues, like they wanted to track, this is called the spend analysis. So they wanted to track on what various people are spending, what is the major expense that is happening. Like Mr. Srikanth sir said earlier, and our experiences with other companies as well, is that the problem in front is good. And when we started digging deeper, I'll just tell you one thing. IBM, we all know it very well, in Sun Microsystems database. And by the way, Sun has been acquired by Oracle, whose database we are all using. So the name of IBM in Sun Microsystems database that we had at our end was International Business Machine Limited, IBM US Limited, IBM China Limited. And when I'm trying to say how much did I spend on IBM, it depends on the name in which you are querying the data. If you're saying IBM Limited, you won't get IBM US, you won't get IBM China, you won't get International Business Machines, you will only get those records which are matching to something called IBM Limited. So that's a major challenge. And what we found is about 60 to 70% of the effort goes in what is called as data cleaning. And that's what you are also probably alluding to, is there's a significant time gone in data cleaning. And if you were to do these reports month on month, quarter on quarter, the amount of cleaning you were to do, and suddenly the management feels, oh, can you give me this perspective about, I want production by quarter, and then can you say, I want production by quarter, can you show me which are the lines which are choked? I don't have the lines available. Now, if you were to again change the analysis, you have to again pull the data from the backend. You have to again check whether the data is clean. You have to, there are gaps in the data. That's a major work. So that's where, going back to an earlier question on the BI tools, the BI tools will work only if you have clean data. The fundamental requirement of the BI tool is clean data. Otherwise, whatever you throw in, garbage in and garbage out is there. So you hit the nail on the head. 70% of any project engagement in this space is all about cleaning. And then 30% is how do you want to visualize? Your better time is spent on drawing it on paper, saying, I would like to see a pie here, a bar chart here, and a trend line here, which you have a story. It is all storytelling. And the management, whosoever is presenting, the C-level guys, whosoever is presenting to the board or to anybody else, it's storytelling, how quickly you can weave the story in the 4-5 blocks that you want to show, and that's the dashboard. And that also takes time. Visualization takes time. So have I answered your question?
Yes.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So another aspect on the same question was like whenever we design some dashboards or kind of a the data analysis, it based upon certain underlines, like this is what I'm expecting or management want to see in this way. Sometimes it happens that in a live session with management discussions, they come up with certain new requirements.
Right.
So after implementation, how these things will get accommodated? Is it kind of falls in the standard software life cycle, like there will be implementation and kind of a continual support?
So excellent question, I would say. It's a tough job to be an analyst. Even though I'm the CEO, I call myself the chief analyst or something, because I love numbers, nothing else beyond that. And I saw that in Mr. Srikanth and Mr. So many people that I've met across the board, that number savvy and going down to the nitty-gritties of numbers and seeing different perspectives, Mr. Anand Karpe, so on. So now coming back to your question on this, the job of an analyst, I would say, put it differently, if you get out of the routine stuff, is called 2 words, something called a stated need and something called an unstated need. The challenge of today is, if you have the ability to understand the unstated need, they won't tell you, but you have to be able to pull in your experience or listen to people who have experience and know what is not being stated. Then what happens is, when you cull out the data from behind, so if I were to pull out a sales invoice from SAP, I would get the customer name, I'll get the invoice number, I'll get the amount that has been collected. But I can get also the region, right? I can also get, whether it is which mode of shipment it went through, because the standard invoice statements have all of these. So like that, there's so much other information that you can extract from the same data source. So most of the tools that use, most of the implementations that happen, they are doing specific pooling of data to meet the need. And the necessity for that is, the volume of data becomes large, that when you are trying to do real time, you want a click, at the click you want it, then they have to sacrifice the quantity of data. You cannot use all of that. So if you are restricted by that and you really want everything in a click, that's where people think everything can happen in a click. No, not really. But while pulling the data, if you have those fields available, wherein you can second guess that tomorrow the decision maker might want to look at other perspectives, you don't again have to go back to data cleaning, data pulling, data collation. So that's where the art lies. And so that you don't do those repetitive dumb jobs of collation, cleaning and all that. You anticipate these things, and that's a major expectation, because this community and the finance community is really blessed to know the data in its all nuances. And many times I would still want to learn to know, when I'm looking at financial reports, what else they might need, they haven't stated it. So yeah, that's a very important and very good question. Have I answered your question, please?
Yes, I think
much like reading between the data.
Yeah, you need to spend time to know the data. And when you are free from the routine task, I'm sure you will be having plenty of time to develop the foresight. It's all about being future focused.
I would like to add a couple of words here, Mohit.
Sure, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Mohit, what you have to do is actually start standardizing the terminologies in the company first. When you want to go for such kind of programs, start standardizing the terminologies and even the product codes and everything, to standardize the definitions. Most of the times I have seen problems coming up because the definitions used by us are not understood by the receiving community.
Right.
Okay. And then there are problems, and then in the middle of the program they ask for change. At the end of it, after when it comes to implementation, they say, "Oh, this is not what I expected." That is partly coming. I'm not saying that totally because of that. Partly coming from the fact that the definitions are not clear to the two sides.
You're so very right, sir. This pharma company, it was a nightmare, I'll be honest, because what the production person, and I'll give you a product, Dolo 650, for example. We all know that that's a fever you all have, or a simple paracetamol. And when you get into a pharma company and relating to pharma, because that's a recent, I'm sure what you said is also true, is that the production will say this is a stage 2 output, whereas sales guys will say this is Dolo 650, whereas sales somewhere else the procurement team, which is procuring the raw material, they might just say Dolo. So there are 3 different ways within the organization itself. The naming convention has changed, and if you were to integrate A, B, and C, that is procurement, production, sales with finance, it's a nightmare for finance. And I think Mr. Srikanth just added that to say the terminologies are extremely important as regards the product. The nomenclature is really critical. Otherwise, your data cleaning job goes for a toss again. Integrations are very difficult again.
I'll share an interesting story which I faced maybe a month ago or maybe a month and a half ago.
Right, sir.
We have a division where the division head's salary is around 35 lakhs. He has got around experience of 20 years. Okay. We were expecting him to make a profit of around 20% in that division. And last 2 years, the profit is not coming, and he had recently joined, so he was given some time. Then there came a time when MD said, it's enough is enough, and now this guy, I'm not happy and all that. So he came to me and said, Srikanth, I am doing whatever you are asking me to do, whatever MD is asking me to do. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and still the profit is not coming. Then I took him to the drawing board and said, you tell me how you fix your sales price. Very interesting and very, very simple formula. Many of you will laugh at it when I tell you what it is. When he wanted 20% margin, and in the cost is 100, he was adding 20 to it. So when you add 20 to 100, you get 120. And I calculate margin 20 divided by 120, which is 15%. And when I told him that if your margin has to be 20, your cost has to be divided by quantity and not multiplied by 1.2, this is the gap now. Now, why I'm saying terminologies have to be decided, because of one simple terminology. He came from a company where markup was discussed and not the margin. Our company, we discuss margin, which is margin divided by sales. His previous company was looking at markup, that is what he is getting on the cost. Now, right. This is one starting point of difference, but there are so many such differences, in the terminologies that are being used. So standardization of terminologies and the processes, If you want to go for an ERP, first start standardizing your activities in the company as a first step.
Agreed with you, sir. Agreed. In fact, the other pharma that we started right now, and the MD himself told us that there were more than 1,000 versions of the names there, and he just threw away the old ERP, got a completely new ERP because there were hardly about 300-400 products. But the access to the backend was given to many people. So each person had their own variant of the name there from a data quality point of view.
I will stop because of the time, but if I start telling stories,
I understand that.
There's a company where I know, a forging company. MD called one person from design, one from purchase, one from operations, and asked them, what is your input weight? 3 of them gave him 3 different input weights. So he asked them, are you using the same pie? 22/7, or your pie is different? It comes to that. These are anyway real stories from life, but we'll go on now.
Yeah. So we'll stop here. So Sagar sir and Vikas, sir, thank you very much for your time. We'll also hold back here. We really sincerely thank you for this opportunity, and please share our presentation with whosoever is interested in the community. We are always reachable. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active. I have different views on many things. I won't hold back. So you'll find me an equally aggressive person on numbers. So it's a pleasure, and I really sincerely thank you for this.
I have one last question. One
Go ahead,
quick question.
sir.
Hello,
Go ahead.
hello.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I am a CMA Jaykumar Shinde. I have only one suggestion come question, because I seen the presentation is very good, but I would like to suggest that there should be at least 1 minute presentation or something for a new aspirant CMAs, where the career opportunities are, because you had given all the options or
Yeah.
the databases, the tools, but
Right.
which is the good one, and where the career should be for the new aspirant CMAs. That is missing, I think. Honestly, I'm sorry
Sure.
about
No.
it.
Very valid
Yeah,
point. Maybe we should
yeah.
have. I should have looked at
Because it's a very difficult for any new aspirant CMA. I'm not aspirant. I'm very experienced, but I'm also confused which one to be used. If I want to make a career, or if I want to suggest someone, where should you make your career?
Sir,
Which is the best one?
I'll answer you in
Yeah.
one way. If
Yeah.
there are younger people who are, knocking the doors and who are looking at it and wanting to look at career opportunities, and I'm looking at just this piece where I'm looking at, give me a minute. I'll just go to that and just, yeah. It is the intersection of technology, I would say. Little bit of knowledge about, tools like BI, definitely very helpful. Because they can add more value. BI tools are off-the-shelf tools and they are very helpful. But just the tool alone doesn't help. You need to have a
Yeah.
business acumen and ability to. Excel helps immensely, but one needs to understand you have to go beyond Excel to look at patterns, and that's where the tool comes in. These BI tools like Tableau, ClickSense, Microsoft BI, they help. But then when you're looking at organization-wide problems, scale, you need to go a bit more deeper into technology. You need to get into something called databases and all that. But I would not urge that right now. But younger people, because back in the days in the past when I was GE, what we needed the business language to look at what are opportunities to cross-sell, who's the best customer, the lifetime value, and the data was provided by IT. And today when I'm looking at youngsters, the IT guy can write a code in SQL. Sorry, the business analyst, not an IT guy. He writes a code in SQL to pull data from the backend. Just in SQL, lot of free tools, free coaching sessions are there online. Just an SQL query so that you can go and grab the data, structure it into a database. It's very simple. It doesn't take more than 2 hours to acquire that skill. And you can use the SQL database to park all the data. It can hold huge data sets. Excel has its own limitations. You make the tool sit on it, you can create wonders. But it doesn't answer things at a scale. That is where we need to automate and integrate. That's where people like us would come to automate the 60-70%. But it adds value because you're able to do the same thing repeatedly and reliably in a fraction of a second compared to the days it was taking before. So little bit of acquisition. SQL is just a few hours. BI tools is just a few hours. BI tools doesn't any person with no technical knowledge can also learn BI tools. All that it needs is an Excel at the back end. But after a point, Excel doesn't support. You need to learn a little bit of SQL. Not too much, not difficult. And with your costing background, you can add huge value. No denying that. I'll definitely add a slide and update this and send it back to Mr. Vikas sir, and he will circulate it on the opportunities. Anything else, sir? Happy to answer.
Okay, yes. Good answer. Thanks for it.
Thank you. You can always reach out to me. Any questions? I'll also be happy to answer and share my experience.
Yeah. Please share your presentation so I can answer question.
Sure. And I'll, with the presentation at the end, you have my details, and I'll also share my LinkedIn details. You can always reach me anytime. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, surely. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Thank you.
Vikas, sir.
Thank you, sir. I would like to request our Secretary and Treasurer of WRC, CMA Mahendra Bombay, please give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Kas. First of all, let me thank Ban Sharma sir. What a wonderful presentation, and in a very, very simply manner. Sir, we learn a lot of things. The way you presented, I think member will get benefited. The way you shared, it's a really eye-opener for all of us. Thank you so much, sir. Let me thank again, once again the Srikant sir, because his presence always there and it's a blessing for our CMA Institute is always there. Let me thank CMA Harshad Deshpande sir for gracing the this online webinar. Dhananjay Kumar Vatsayan sir, the chairman of Pimpri chapter, Basavaraj Mule sir from the Kolhapur chapter, and Sagar, with his help, we are doing such a wonderful webinar on various platforms. Also, let me thank Anand Karpe sir, because when the Anand Karpe sir joined this our community, we have seen that so many webinars on this technical and analytical aspect. Thank you so much, Anand Karpe sir, for your help for this overall our CMA community. Let me thank all the members from the industry, because your presence is very important and your presence help us to conduct such webinars with such knowledgeable eminent speaker. Also, let me thank WRC staff, Pimpri chapter staff and Kolhapur chapter staff for their support, organizing such webinar, conducting on time, sending emails, WhatsApp. Thank you so much. I officially conclude here that the webinar is over. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.